looking at, for example, the Patty Hearst trial in the mid-'70s and in the case of Patty Hearst. I mean, when there was a firefight to capture her and the group who had kidnapped her.
For people who don't know who she is, can you give a brief?
So the short story is she was the granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst, who was immortalized in the Citizen Kane, in the fictional. So he was a publishing magnate, basically a billionaire equivalent in his day, and his granddaughter was one of, I think, 4 or 5 girls who were brought up in this family, and she went to college at UC Berkeley at the age of 19. She was living in the town of Berkeley. She was studying art history. She was a sophomore, and this group called the Symbionese Liberation Army discovered that she was, this daughter of a wealthy capitalist family, as they saw it, was studying, and they wanted to make what they called a righteous arrest of her. So they went by her apartment where she was living with her fiancé, who had been her math teacher, actually, in this private school she'd gone to. So she's 19. She's taken out of her apartment. They bludgeon her boyfriend, leave him on the floor. She was watching TV with him, so she's wearing a bathrobe. They shove her in the trunk of their car. They drive off, shooting up the street, and they keep her in a closet for 59 days, reading Maoist propaganda to her, forcing her to listen to broadcasts, and covering her eyes so she can't see for that whole time. She's never alone. She has to submit to rape, or they say, if you're a person of good faith and you're starting to believe in us, which she had to kind of pretend that, at first she had to pretend that she was. She had to sleep with various members of this group. So she submitted to rape. She was moved to a different closet. And over the course of these 59 days, she had to release cassette tapes of her reading messages to her parents. And at first, she sounds really shaky. And these are broadcast on all the local and national radio stations. And she's saying things like, "Mom, Dad, I'm okay," but they seem like a decent group. She's saying, you should listen to what they say.
Oh, wow.
Do what they want. And then her messages start to transform over the next month or two. And she's saying, they're actually pretty cool. She says,
going off script.
She said, no, I mean, she just was, she had to convince them that she was starting to believe in them, or that she had been converted. Because she said, I decided I wanted to live. Because they had just massacred the local superintendent of Oakland schools. So they were they were highly armed. They were constantly doing these military exercises. They told her they were just one branch of this paramilitary organization that was, revolutionizing the United States and was going to bring about a new system of government. And so she was so disoriented.
What was the name of the military group?
They call themselves the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Symbionese Liberation Army?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a whole story there. Their leader was a former convict named Donald DeFreeze, who renamed himself Sinkyu. And he said that he had been, he was almost like a guru, and he had recruited all these middle-class students. He was black, and most of the members were white. And he said this was going to create, a new system in the United States. And basically, if they could get Patty Hearst to join them, it would look really good for their cause. And so after about a month and a half, they sat her down, they took off her blindfold finally, and they let her see them. And they said, "Do you want to join us?" And she said she basically had to, this is why it's known as a brainwashing case, or they tried to make this argument that she had to make herself into a soldier in their army if she wanted to live, which she could have easily not, because she knew they would never return her to her parents. And so in a week or two, there's a famous picture of her holding an automatic weapon, and she ended up robbing a bank with the other members of the group. And she said,
75?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she declared that she had a new name. She was no longer Patricia Hearst. She was going to be called Tanya. And so eventually she went on the run with this group, that a whole bunch of things happened.
Oh my God.
And people in the country didn't believe that she, they seemed like they kind of forgot that she'd been kidnapped. And they started to assume that she was a willing participant in this gang, and they were associating her with the hippies and with the people, the radicals of that time. And so she was tried in 1976, and Louis Jolyon West was the lead expert who, in her defense.
Wow.
Because he
was... What? How did that happen?
Yeah.
That's bananas. So he was defending her.
He was, actually all of the main brainwashing experts from the 50s, from the earlier POW incidents, were then recalled to this trial. They were brought forward again. So Robert J. Lifton, Martin Orne, and Louis Jolyon West, but West was really the lead expert witness, and he was called to describe what had happened to her and hopefully exonerate her, but he failed massively on the stand because he perjured himself very quickly, and also because he didn't do a very good job. Well, he basically disqualified brainwashing as a legal defense, even while he was claiming that she was.
Oh no.
But I mean, one of the things is that most of the group was killed in a firefight, which is, even to this day, probably the largest firefight that was in the city limits of LA. And it was the first deployment of a SWAT team, at a large scale. And I guess originally why I was thinking about this is so many things were new about technology. Like, they never had synced sound to image. So this firefight happened live on television, and people all over the nation saw the Symbionese Liberation Army members, 6 of them, burn. They didn't see their bodies burn, but they saw their safe house burn on live television with sound synced to the image and with portable minicam. So all these things that, they were totally new in 1975 when that happened. And I think we just assume sometimes that these things have always existed, but actually it was kind of, things were changing so quickly even then. But anyway, they assumed that Hearst had also died in the firefight, but she happened to be out doing errands. And that's a whole other story, which is very amazing.
What ended up happening to her after all of this?
So she was left with 2 other members of the SLA, the Harrises, who were a married couple, and Bill Harris was, he had beaten up Patty Hearst when she was first.
Right.
He was always beating her up, but they were also working with her. So they said, we're going to go on the lam with you, because basically the rest of the group died. So they had to go underground, and people started ferrying them across the U.S. They ended up spending a whole summer, I think it was in Pennsylvania maybe, and they were helping Hearst. They wanted her to write her autobiography, and they wanted it to be a bestseller, talking about her transformation and her belief in this new revolutionary army. And it was kind of like the POWs in the sense that she was constantly working on her confession, her repudiation of her family, how she had seen the light, how she had changed. And ultimately, though, she was discovered and arrested, and people couldn't understand why she hadn't just run away during that. There was about a year when she was on the lam when the security wasn't that tight, and she, arguably could have just walked away. Right. But she said that she was this happens often with people who have been abducted. They're so entrained and so fearful. Like, it's a kind of
they start to feel protected by their abuser.
Yeah, they cling to the situation because she also, when she saw the way the SWAT teams and the LAPD came after her group and slaughtered them on live TV, she thought and they thought she was in the building. She knew that she didn't feel protected by her own government. So
yeah, that seems like a common thing, even in relationships with like husbands and wives where the husband can be abusive to the wife, and they've been together for 10 years and he's been abusing her for 10 years. It's like she can't, some women are unable to leave the relationship, you know, where it's just like, I'm so used to this, I can't do change. Like, this sucks, but I'm going to stick to it, and it's easier for me to stay here and be abused than to get out of it.
Yeah, I think coercively controlling relationships also have financial elements of control. Like, it's very difficult, especially if you have children.
Yeah.
Like, the dynamics of domestic violence are similar. Also, the dynamics of people, young women often who are abducted by, you know, when they're really young and held.
Right. Yeah.
Like the famous case of Elizabeth Smart. You know, at a certain point, years in, there are moments they eventually do break away. But it's hard to know what that moment is, and of course, you're risking your life if you try to reveal who you are.
Right.